Bob Groats in less than 20 minutes now. We thank Mike Gill for coming on and giving us his insights. We left off talking about Lamar Jackson before we hit the break. No one, at least I wasn't surprised that he was tagged with the non-exclusive franchise tag, which there's two purposes to do it if you're the Ravens. Number one is, yeah, it's cheaper if you put the exclusive tag on him, then you got to pay him $45 million for 1 year. The non-exclusive, you only got to pay him 32 and change. So it's advisable to save that $12 million. Now, he's not, you talk about somebody who's not going to be happy playing on a tag. Oh, Lamar Jackson is certainly in that category. He's probably perturbed to no end. But it gives him the right to go out and negotiate with any other team and see how good a contract he can get. As soon as the announcement came down, several teams around the National Football League that have a need for a quarterback certainly would be a massive upgrade if they got their hands on Lamar Jackson. Got it out there on the record through various media outlets that, yeah, we're not going to be playing in the Lamar Jackson market or pool. Not a deal we're looking to make. We're going in another direction for quarterback, some of which were pretty surprising. One of which wasn't the Washington Commanders. I know that had been kicked around. Sorry to our buddy Ed Kratz, the biggest Sam Howell fan in the Delaware Valley. Yeah, Lamar Jackson would be a better quarterback this year for the Commanders. But they said they were out. The Vegas Raiders said they were out. The Falcons, who there were rumors that they would trade from before we even got to the franchise tag date, said, no, we're good at quarterback. We don't need Lamar Jackson. You firmly believe that this is that they've gotten the news through whatever sources they needed to, that Lamar Jackson is stuck on, I need Deshaun Watson's contract. I want every penny guaranteed, and they're not willing to go down those roads.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And you know, it's funny because there's different ones. I give our buddy Mike Tenier, he had a great line from Football Outsiders. Diana Rossini put that the Raiders haven't eliminated any quarterback options. So you have conflicting reports, but Mike's response to that was Mark Davis himself would have to go into escrow. He could live out the next 5 years inside a safe deposit box. So, yeah, great line. I just wanted to give Mike credit for that. But so part of the reason is I think everybody, and you're right, the way you framed it, from a pure football standpoint, Lamar's better than everybody on every one of these teams, you know, that don't have quarterbacks. But that's not what we're talking about. And I think people lose the other aspect of it. And the fact that he's been negotiating. Remember, he doesn't have an agent, so that's a problem. He's been negotiating with his own team who wants him by all indications. He hasn't been able to get anything done. The information's out there. He wants a fully guaranteed contract. We brought up the escrow stuff, the great line from Mike Tenier. You got to put all that money in there. And remember where you are also timing. These teams have already put together plans, already put together budgets, already have plans to attack free agency, already have things, and now they're going to go, oh, we're going to drop that and say, we're going to pay you $253 million. I think the whole strategy here from Baltimore, Jody, is, hey, Lamar, we can't get something done with you. Go out and negotiate with other teams, see what else is out there. And worst case scenario, if you're Baltimore, they can negotiate the contract and you can match it, or take the 2 first-round picks. Ultimately, I think they would match it. So it's a no-lose situation. But the fact that he doesn't have an agent, I think, is really, really hurting Lamar Jackson. I really believe that.
Absolutely. And more power to him if he thinks he can get it done. I would never tell him that he has to take an agent. No. Oh, but it's very advisable. Okay. We've seen how this is played out with you trying to negotiate without an agent. And does he call the general manager of the Jets today? Does he pick up the phone and say, "It's Lamar Jackson. Can I get a hold of Joe Douglas"? Does he have Joe's cell number? How do those negotiations get going? Agents are all connected and they all have the ability to get a general manager on.
Well, it's easy to get. Yeah, he can get a hold of Joe Douglas if he wants, but he's probably going to be dealing with whoever the Jets salary cap guy is, who I don't know, but like Jake Rosenberg here in Philadelphia is, how he gets all the credit, but Jake is the one doing all the contracts. So everybody's got that sort of salary cap experts, and those are the guys who handle the finances. But these contracts are very, very complicated, and it's not advisable. In the legal world, they say, if you want to represent yourself, you got to fool for a client. Same thing.
And I did read last night. It was funny because I'm writing my notes out for my WIP show after it became official that Lamar Jackson was getting the franchise tag, about the fact that now they're reporting the teams are saying, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you, no. So the light bulb goes off on top of my head. Oh, this is going to bring up the collusion conversation, because it was like rapid fire, a bunch of teams. It's very difficult to prove. Our buddy Mike Florio, he used to be my buddy. He used to come on my shows. Couldn't get him on a show.
Mike couldn't get there quick enough. Mike ran the collusion, and he did a 4:06 record. He got there so quick.
The lawyer that is Mike Florio went there immediately. Now, you got to be pretty dumb to get caught in colluding and trying to get the owners to agree to a certain 32 different individuals with individual teams to act in accordance on any one individual player. Not easy to do. And sure as hell, if you're pretty smart about it, and all these owners we think in the National Football League are pretty smart guys, that you would get caught doing it. It's not impossible. Ask Major League Baseball.
Happen in baseball, yeah. Well, you got to be really dumb. I blame that on baseball. But, it's not even, it doesn't have to be all 32. It's just got to be 2 or more. So it's just got to be like, Atlanta colluding with the Raiders, and, maybe Roger Goodell gets involved. But, I mean, it's very tough to prove. And from, by the way, two things, they're not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, it's well known in this league that everybody was mad at Cleveland. It's well known, right? Nobody has to get together and say, boy, that was a bad contract. We don't like that contract. You set a precedent that we don't want to go down. Now, if Lamar wants to go to Kirk Cousins precedent, he'd probably already have a deal. If you want to go short term, they probably give him 2 years, fully guaranteed money. I don't know.
That's what Daniel Jones got. Yes, they got a 4-year deal, and every dollar is guaranteed in the first 2 of it. But then after that, it's not guaranteed. That's why it's a 2-year deal dressed up to be a 3-year deal.
And exactly,
is a 4-year deal.
And half of those numbers you see, Geno Smith as well. They're not real contracts for whatever reason. The NFL keeps going down, and if I would advocate for that change, just be honest about these contracts. Fans would be more educated about it, but you have all this, and media members as well, because there's plenty of media members who don't get these contracts as well. And we talk about, and I talk about average annual value because people use it, and we shouldn't be using that because it doesn't matter. Because you're never, even good players, like say Chauncey signs a 5-year deal and re-signs with the Eagles, and he plays great, and he sees all 5 years of that deal because he's only 24 years old. Well, I guarantee you it's going to be different than when he signed it, because the Eagles are going to restructure the thing all along the way as it continues to play well, as they always do. How many times have they restructured Lane Johnson? I can't even count at this stage who's played and succeeded and had all these seasons. So there's so much misinformation out there on contracts. It frustrates the living hell out of me. But the only thing that matters is the guaranteed money, because that's the only real money. And even when you sign these quarterbacks, who have long careers. You keep restructuring as they go. Oh, he's got a big cap hit this year. We got to restructure. We got to lower that. We got to put more years on the end. Happens all the time.
Right, which we're severely putting the cart before the horse here, but I think it's worth doing because of some fans already leaking out opinion about Jalen Hurts and what kind of contract he should sign, could sign, is obligated to sign. You and I have both heard it about Jalen's got to give the Eagles a hometown discount, save a little money so they can put those other good players around him. And we'll continue to give the same opinion we give. Not this contract. Get back to me in the next contract. Then maybe you can justify that stance. But this is his first time to step up to the big table, and he should get every single last dollar he wants to get. For those of you who think Jalen will be doing the Eagles an injustice by doing as John and I suggest, get every dollar, here's what else I'll say about Jalen Hurts. Because the Eagles are going to go there, much like with Lane Johnson. They're going to need to restructure. And at some point, they're going to go to Jalen Hurts. Listen, we need to redo the deal. And here's what we need to do to clear cap space. And here's what you'll get out of it. And here's what we'll add on the back end. I think Jalen Hurts will say, yeah, whatever you need. I think he's the kind of guy who will do the right thing by the organization. As long as it's not costing him any money, as long as he and his agent, when the deal is done, get to go out and say, look at the monster contract that we got. That's going to be very important to him, his agent, and a lot of people for him to get the best deal that he has to. But then next year when they need to redo the deal, he'll do it. He'll take care of the Eagles. He'll be a good team guy. So I'm just trying to cut off those in advance who are going to go, oh, Jalen Hurts, what happened to the great leader that he is? He had to milk the Eagles for every
and that's because there's a lot of what I talked about. There's a lot of misunderstanding about contracts in the NFL. Because of the way they're reported and the way agents put it out, because agents want to look good, right? They want to, look at the deal I got for so-and-so. And it's not real. And most contracts, not all, but most contracts are 2-year deals for even good players. Sometimes you're so good, you get that extra year, but most of them are 2-year deals. And after 2 years, you can get out of it with relatively few headaches. And that's sort of how the NFL does business. But I will say, you talk about Lane Johnson. Teams set up contracts now to where, as you mentioned, they don't even have to go to Jalen Hurts and say, now, if it's an extension, they have to go to Jalen Hurts. You have to negotiate an extension. But if you just want to move money around and say, oh, Jalen, your salary's $32 million. We're going to put that all as a signing bonus and knock your salary down to $2 million to create cap space. You don't even have to get permission.
Right.
So teams have done that. Like you're going to see it with Lane Johnson in the coming days. It's not like they have, hey, Lane, can we give you this money? No, they just do it. And it's built into the contract. And that's, the Eagles have been at the forefront of that as well. The Eagles are very good with this stuff.
Right. But moving money around is one thing. Adding extra years, even if they're voidable, which is what they do a lot, you just add extra years and that they're voidable. That before you ever get there, the contract year is going to disappear. Can't do that without the player's permission. You can't just
you can add voidable years, but they're voidable. It doesn't matter. It's a dummy year. Extensions you have to negotiate. So real years. The Eagles have that, and that's again the voidable years is an Eagles trick that everybody copies. You don't need permission for that because the contract's voiding. You're only adding years on it in a bookkeeping method. You're not adding years onto the contract from a real world perspective. You're just spacing out the money for the salary cap, which has nothing to do with the player. He's getting all his money and he's getting it up front. So most players are typically very happy. They get the money up front. Everything's copacetic. The Eagles get more cap space. And by the way, I thought for years the NFL might close that loophole because the Eagles are taking too much advantage of it. Similar to the tush push, but the financial aspect. And I wouldn't be surprised at some point they revisit all the voidable years because everybody's doing it now. And I don't know if they want to go down that route.
It was an advantage for the Eagles because they got onto it first, but now that everybody has to, it's not that big a deal. So that's why I don't think the league will react to it. If everybody has the capability of doing it and most teams are smart enough to do it, well, then it's not an advantage for one or two or three teams. So my guess is that they won't react to that. And oh, by the way, Peter King in his column on Monday said he doesn't think the league is going to be able to get enough owners to sign off on the change on the tush push. So it may very well be back this year for the Eagles. So good on the Birds on that one. All right, Bob Groats is scheduled to join us coming up in the next couple of minutes here. We'll shoot off the text, see if Groats can get up and out of his coffin to join us here on Birds 365. Always fun when Bob Groats from the Delco Times jumps aboard on Birds 365.